We've talked today with people who have attended seminary with the now Pope, who have studied with him, who have worked with him in missionary capacities in Peru. But let's go way back to the very, very beginning, to a childhood classmate of who is now Pope Leo XIV. I want to introduce you to John Doughney, who also was in St. Mary's, St. Mary of Assumption Grammar School in Chicago. He's in Grapevine, Texas this morning. John, welcome to our program. We're happy to meet you today.
Good morning.
I've been talking to people who say they're having real trouble talking of him as Pope Leo because to them he's Bob or maybe Rob, or what would he have been to you? Was he Bobby or Bob, or back in the time, what did you call him?
He was Robert.
Robert.
To his classmates back at St. Mary's, he was Robert, and I think every one of us to a person would say we knew there was something special about him, even as a 13-year-old.
Amazing. We're looking at your class photo from the class of 1969 here, John, and he's in there, and I'm not sure where you are, but you're obviously in that. So back at that time, what stood out? What was special about your classmate?
Well, when you think about the common characteristics of a 13-year-old growing up on the south side of Chicago, certain images come to mind. But the words that you probably wouldn't think about would be kindness and compassion and devotion and humility. Those are not typically ascribed to young men, certainly at 13 on the south side of Chicago. And that's what typified Robert. He was all those things. And his classmates knew it. We knew he was different. He was something special because he held himself much differently than a typical 13-year-old. And
that's an interesting way of putting it. He held himself differently. We've been listening to people from the neighborhood, from Dalton, the neighborhood where he grew up in just at Chicago, that even at 6, there was a neighbor who predicted he would be Pope. We're looking at the neighborhood right now. Is that what you mean? Was there something particularly spiritual about him? You talked about the qualities, but how he held himself.
Yes. And every young man, every boy growing up in the Catholic Church, probably at one time or another has visions of becoming a priest and maybe even one day the Pope, because that's the epitome. And I'm sure every one of us did. But Robert, he had a kind of a singularity of purpose as he was growing up. And you could tell that this was the path that he was taking, and he stayed on that path regardless of what anybody else thought or said.
Do you have any idea who it was or what it was that drew him so closely to the church as a young boy?
I really don't. I do know his family were devout Catholics. They were very involved in the church. His mother was the librarian at my Catholic high school in Chicago. His older brothers went to Mendel High School in Chicago. And Robert chose to go to the seminary and then to Villanova, where he was ordained. And so I don't know what it was, but there was a very nurturing community, both his family as well as the church community, that supported young men like Robert.
I'm interested in that. Maybe if we go back to images of his family home at that time, how you think the neighborhood and the parish might have shaped him along the way.
Well, we're talking about 56 years ago, so life was a little bit different, and the parish, for the parishioners, the church was the center of our community. And so it was school and mass every single day. It was mass on Sunday. It was other events that our parents were involved in, and volunteer work and service. And there was an expectation. There was an air of the expectation of service, even among young kids. And I think that all combines to provide a seedbed, if you would, for those who might want to go into the priesthood.
Into the priesthood and beyond, missionary work. Absolutely. And rising through the Augustinian order and now to the highest place for all of the world's Catholics, 1.2 billion. I'm wondering, as an American sharing that religious background, what's your reaction to an American Pope?
Well, I talked to some folks before the conclave, and when we realized that Robert was going to be considered, um, all of us, I think, all Americans probably said yes, but we've never had an American Pope, and he's relatively young for a Pope. And so I think all those things considered, even his interviews with his brothers, they said, no, that's going to work against him. So I think we were surprised when we heard the announcement, just surprised because of those two factors. Not surprised because of the man that he is and the deep devotion and spirituality and depth of intellect that this man has. That part doesn't surprise me at all.
It's interesting. Do you have any thoughts on, there's been a lot of discussion about an American choice, and at this time in world politics and in American politics, what choosing an American Pope might speak to? Do you have a sense of bridging a gap, or where he might fit in the political discourse?
Well, I think we'll see him as a unifier, and Lord knows the world needs some unification. We're divided as a nation and as a world as we ever have been, and maybe this is a symbol. Maybe this is a guiding light for us, that here now we have someone who will carry on Pope Francis's work and his beliefs about protecting the marginalized and unifying across and living the faith rather than just talking about it.
So in that spirit, as you follow from Texas, some of the world's issues are really playing out in the state of Texas, issues that he has addressed directly as cardinal. But what are your hopes and expectations for your childhood friend's papacy, John?
Well, I hope that there, again, can be more of an inclusive spirit, whether we're talking about in the state of Texas, in our country, or as Catholics throughout the world. We're way too divided politically, and that's even creeping into faith-based organizations. And I think it's time for the Pope to continue this work, in which there's a call for people to come together and be unified, rather than just the rhetoric that continues to divide people throughout the world.
John, I really appreciate it. We've learned about your childhood classmate through you, and of course, looking to the future with you too. I thank you for the time.
You're very welcome.